Hey there everyone, I know it's been a little bit since I posted a video, but with this warmer weather coming, I'm getting really excited for boating. I know that a lot of you are probably getting really excited as well, so I wanted to just post a few videos out there, try and get the ball rolling again. In this video I want to talk about some basic skill checks you can do for Class 2 and Class 3 boating. This is a checklist that I got. It's not my checklist. I actually got it from another gentleman called Zach Collier. He is the owner of Northwest Rafting Company out of, I believe, Oregon. I don't remember where he is exactly located in Oregon, but he's a great guy. He does a whole bunch of good stuff. He's got a video series about this. I'll link the two that I got the tips from, or the skills from anyway, in the description below. So check him out. He did a great job describing them, and I kind of want to pass it along. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start out with Class 2. They'll be posted right here as well as we go along, so you can follow along, take your own notes. Just follow along as you like. So the first thing about a Class 2 boater is you have to read the obstacles of the river. You have to read, you have to understand them. It's basically paving the roadmap as you go out there and start boating. It's like driving a car. You have to understand the hazards of doing so. You have to understand the signs. It's the basics of, like I said, operating any sort of watercraft out there on the river. You have to read the obstacles out there as you go down. Next is wearing a life jacket, or your PFD. I'm wearing mine right here as an example. I always like to wear mine out there on the river, and I agree with Zach a lot that you have to wear a life jacket whenever you're on a moving body of water or any sort of body of water. There's been quite a few times during the summer and in other videos that I've seen out there in the world where people just aren't wearing their life jacket, and it bugs me. I wish it was a law here in Montana. Unfortunately it's not, and it bugs the crap out of me that people just don't wear their life jacket when they're out there on the river. Along with wearing a life jacket, you have to wear the proper dress. At least the proper clothing anyway. During the summer I wear a lot of quick dry materials because my summers are usually really hot. If they're not hot, they're kind of colder, so I wear quick dry materials, kind of like this underlayer I've got on at the moment. I wear splash gear, just trying to keep myself warm and comfortable out there on the river. That goes along with shoes as well. I wear chacos a lot, or sandals if you don't know what a chaco is. And in some circumstances chacos are fine, they are. In other circumstances they're not fine. You have to do something else. You have to wear a closed-toed shoe, and I understand that, and I try and craft my boating or my personal equipment along the lines of where I'm going with the boat, what kind of boat I'm in. I wear chacos a lot in rafts on like a Class 2, Class 3 section, which is fine. In kind of tougher water, and if I'm in a smaller boat, I'll wear a closed-toed shoe. So, proper gear, proper dress out there. And after that is understanding river signals. There's a lot of signals out there. The US has some signals that the rest of the world doesn't. You as a private group, if you're out there with your buddies, your friends, out there with a company, who knows what, you guys have different signals. So the signals I usually operate by are eddy out. I do basically this and point to either that side of the river or this side of the river, depending on what side I'd like to see the boats eddy out on. The other one I go by is tapping the head. This is very much an American signal. The rest of the world does something different. If you didn't know, in America this is basically a question and a response. So if I tap my head, it's a question to somebody who says, "Are you okay?" If they respond back with this, that means they're okay and ready to go again. Like I said, it's usually an American thing to do that. Different countries have different things. So know your signals out there. Know the signals in the group you're with out there, and it's a great way of communicating out there on the river. Going along with signals is boating in groups. There are a lot of rivers out there that sure you could do it with a one boat trip if you want to. I don't recommend it on a lot of rivers. Going in groups is a great way to stay safe out there on the river, and it's a lot more fun that way as well. You can have fun with your buddies. Maybe you're making new friends out there on the river. In a commercial standpoint, how I work, boating in groups is definitely a way to keep clients safe out there. And it's just a way to show that you as a commercial outfitter and a commercial guide know your stuff and you look professional doing it. You stay in your group and that's your company. Sure, you can mingle with other people, but stay in your group, stay in your boat group, and help each other out there on the river. Another thing about a Class 2 boater is the lack of alcohol drinking out there on the river. I rarely drink alcohol myself, especially not when I'm out on the river. A lot of the guides I work with will be drinking out there on the river. They'll have a guest hand them a beer. We do let our customers drink alcohol in the river. That has ended in both good and bad situations. I'm not a fan of doing it myself. I don't think it makes river guides look all that professional. I'm trying to be a professional river guide myself, so I don't drink, I don't do that stuff. Also, drinking and boating is, in my opinion, very similar to drinking and driving. You wouldn't do it when you're driving your car, so why would you do it when you're operating a watercraft? Some situations, boating can probably be a lot more detrimental to you than driving a vehicle on the roads. Usually because you get more friends with you, usually because you have customers with you. In my standpoint, I really don't want to put all those people who basically are in my hands in danger, or any more danger than I have to put them into. Another big thing about safety, this is, as you can tell, a lot about safety and whatnot, is understanding foot entrapments and understanding the dangers of foot entrapments, where they happen, how they happen, and what can cause them to happen. Like I said, foot entrapments, they are one of the biggest things out there on the rivers, and foot entrapments and other sorts of entrapments lead to the major cause of death out on rivers. It's a sad thing to hear, it sucks, but knowing how to deal with that, which is usually sitting back there in your big lazy boy, I like to call it the lazy boy position anyway. Usually I tell my guests think of your most comfortable chair at home, usually the lazy boy, and just assume that position as you're floating down the river. It's a great way to get their feet up off the river, keeps them on their front, or get their feet up off the bottom, excuse me, keeps them on their back as they're floating down the river, and then from there you can continue to elaborate on. You could either have them swim back to the boat or do any other kind of rescue steps and procedures that the company you work for, or that you have to go to get them back to the boat and then back into a safe position out there on the river. I mentioned it before, but that the safe swimmer position on your back, feet up, your feet and your toes up, or feet and your nose up anyway. Best position you can be on if you fall out of the boat. And from there you can make choices of rather swimming to the boat, swimming away from an obstacle. And it's, like I said, the best position you can be in out there on the river. So knowing that position is a definite for a Class 2 boater. That's also the end of the Class 2 notes I have. So we're going to move into Class 3 here a little bit. Class 3 and the next video I'm going to do after this, the Class 4 and the 5 skills, are building off each other. So everything I said in Class 2 will also transfer into Class 3, and so on and so forth. So just because I don't say it on the list doesn't mean you can per se like drink alcohol as a Class 3 boater. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. So, Class 3. Again, we're going to start out with wearing basically PPE or personal protective equipment, life jackets, helmets. Got my helmet down there. Always have it handy when I'm out boating. And personal rescue equipment, ropes, carabiners, pulleys, all sorts of that stuff. Knowing how to swim and being physically fit, of course, is part of this. As for rowing a boat, a big raft anyway, or a drift boat, of course drift boaters are included in this, is the ability to pull away from danger. So this goes back to when I was first learning to row. I was instructed to point my nose at something or the front of my boat at something, at the danger I don't want to hit, and pull away from it. Usually this is done at an angle to the river, so you're not actually fighting your way back up current. You want to fighting either to either side of the river as a ferry angle. That is one of the. Another skill is understanding and using the ferries. Yeah, it's a lot of people can debate this, but in my mind and in a lot of people's minds right now, a ferry angle is any angle you take to the current. So say the current's going straight, any angle you take to that, you could be 7 degrees, you could be 90 degrees, any angle in there is a ferry angle for boating right now. Some people may argue that a true ferry angle is a 45-degree angle. But in reality, any angle that gets you moving away from the current and then away from a spot you don't want to be and across the river is a usable ferry angle. So keep that in mind. Class 3 boaters definitely have to keep that in mind because they are getting some bigger stuff in there. They have to avoid more obstacles, and it's a good skill to have when you're out there on the river. Going on to ferry angles is understanding the river hydrology, or basically what's the current going to do, what's the river going to do in some situations, where's the current going to be on a corner, is it the inside or the outside? Answer, current usually follows the outside. A big easy one to understand is the river current is following the path of least resistance as it goes down, so there's my tip for the day. And as you go boating a lot more, you'll get better understanding of river hydrology. It's just something you accumulate over time. That's why I tell a lot of people who are wondering how to become river guides or how to get into the sport. I tell them to go out there and raft, really, or kayak or whatever. If there's a river they want to work on, I tell them just to go float it all the time. It's the best way of understanding how river hydrology, and it's the best way of getting better at skills too. So you just got to get out there, you got to do it. Another big one for Class 3, since you are getting into some bigger rapids and bigger obstacles, is the scouting etiquette. When you pull over to scout an obstacle or a rapid, how is the boat owner going through the obstacle or rapid? And it's a good way of staying safe out there on the river. It's a good way of keeping other people safe out there on the river, and it's a great thing to do out there on the river. Here at the end of March here and into April, I will be taking a college class down the Green River through Desolation and Great Canyons, and in my mind, scouting is a great way to teach these new boaters. I actually don't really know if they are new boaters, but teaching these new to me boaters the way that rivers work, how features are formed, and how to look at a rapid and kind of determine your path or your line going through the rapid. So it's always a great thing to scout a rapid and kind of learn from that as you go down. Knots are a big thing as well for a Class 3 boater because you're going to be using them a lot. Maybe not in the situations you guys may think. You're not having, a lot of the time as a Class 3 boater, you don't really have to haul boats off of rocks or obstacles or like that, or set anchors, but you might have to, so that's why knots are a great thing to know. Along with knots is rope work. I mentioned it, but using your ropes, tying them, of course, sitting back home, tying your knots, practicing your knots, and then basically just working with your throw bags too. There's quite a few guides I work with, and I've seen out there on the river who they have a throw bag, but do you actually know how to use the throw bag? And do you know a lot of the applications that throw bag can be used for? It's more than just a piece of rope you carry around with you and hang up and dry your clothes at camp with. It's definitely a great rescue tool, and it's one of the best tools to have in a boat. I've done lots of things with my throw bags. Some of the stuff thankfully haven't had to do, like pull boats out, pull people out of rapids yet, but it's out there. And throwback skills are not just a skill you practice like once in a while and you're good. It's a skill you have to practice all the time. So come spring here, when I got some better weather, maybe when I get my new boat in, I'll be taking out all my throw bags and practice chucking them, making sure I can still do it and do it accurately. I know it's a different thing out there on moving water, but just practice throwing them, and then pulling them back in, restuffing them, and just doing it from there. It's a skill I always practice every year. Unfortunately, some of the guides I work with, I think they could work on their skills a little bit more. I might be boasting a little bit about my skills. I will tell you now, I don't think of myself as the best river guide out there. That's why I'm trying to do these videos, trying to learn skills for myself, trying to figure out places where I can actually improve. So I'm not the best out there, but I'm trying to improve. Another big thing for boating or Class 3 boating is flipping boats. There's been scenarios I've been in and I've flipped my boats over. I want to say thankfully they've been my personal boats. I haven't had any clients with me just yet, but it's a good thing to get out there and flip boats. I'm on the fence of if I really want to flip a boat with customers in there, because it does add some more variables to you being out there, because it's not just you and a boat anymore, it's you plus, I don't know, 4 to 6 other people out there on the river, and you do have to account for them being out there on the river. I've seen a lot of times where I've had or guides that I've respected and have had a good respect for flip their boats, and you know, can kind of just shut down. It's they either shut down or it's kind of shell shock and they get jittery a little bit. It's not a situation where you don't want to be hard on them, because they just did go through a kind of a traumatic experience, but it's definitely a skill you're gonna have to go through as you progress in rapids. It is scary at times. There's been times when I first started boating that I freaked out myself when I flip boats, but it's a skill you're gonna have to work on as you go along. There's really no way avoiding it. So for you guys who are getting into class 3, you haven't flipped your first boat yet, bear with it. I believe in you guys and gals. You can do it, and it'll be scary your first time. It will be. So just know that, and I believe that you guys will do fine out there on the river. Another big thing about kind of ropes and boats and jackets and whatnot is understanding the equipment. So I have my life jacket on. I know what type of life jacket this is because I run a specific type of life jacket myself. We can go on that later. I've gone in to do it before, but just knowing your equipment when you're out there on the river. A lot of it is knowing the pros and cons of it. I've patched together a throw bag before, and I've looked at the pros and cons of having a certain type of rope in there. It's just who I am. I love learning and knowing this stuff, just so I can be a better person out there in situations that need me to know the equipment I have. This kind of goes into a rescue scenario as well. The knowledge of how to set up a mechanical advantage, or like a 3-to-1 pulley system, a Z-drag system, how to safely set that up with the hardware required, the pulleys, the rope, the carabiners, the Prusik loops, all that stuff. Get to know your gear, what it can be used for, what it can't be used for, and stuff like that. It's again, it's one of those things you're gonna have to get out there, basically either get experience using the equipment and kind of get more knowledge of how to use it. Another big one for safety, and this kind of goes along with using the equipment, although you don't really want to stay away from this next scenario, is recognizing wrap scenarios or wrap spots out there on the river. There are quite a few wrap spots in the section I run on the Stillwater, at least the 3 sections I run anyway. There's tons of bridges out there that if you floated past the bridge, you really don't want to push up on those bridge pillars, because those are excellent wrap spots for boats. I've seen plenty of kayaks and canoes wrapped up on bridges. It's not a pretty sight, and it's like I said, recognizing those scenarios, recognizing those spots anyway, and kind of working out ways of avoiding those spots or going around those spots. It's a good skill set to have, and it's kind of a way of using what I think is one of the best safety things out there on the river, and that's prevention. If you can prevent yourself from getting into a wrap or a dangerous scenario, and then you're probably the golden out there on most of the other river, and you're doing the first step of safety, which, like I said, is prevention. You're preventing yourself from getting into a hazardous scenario. Going along with hazardous scenarios and in these situations, the ability to patch up boats is a great one to have out there. I've patched up quite a few boats in my time. Both the harder boats, like my canoe, I've had to patch its bags a few times, and the softer boats, which is the PVC rafts that my company uses, Hypalon rafts, neoprene rafts, they are out there. And then along with that, it's kind of an interesting way to put it, but being able to patch up and use medical equipment on people too. I love keeping at least a wilderness first aid on me. I'd love to get back up to a wilderness first responder. I used to have that years ago. Unfortunately, I let it slide. But rafting, you are out there in basically areas where it's you, your buddies, maybe your clientele, and if something happens out there on the river, it's up to you guys to either stabilize somebody who's had a really traumatic event, or maybe just put a band-aid on somebody and keep going from there. Sadly, in the company I work for, there's quite a few of us who are medically trained, but not very many of us who actually think to bring a medical kit along. So this next summer, I'm going to put it on myself to be the person out there with the medical kit, with the Z-Drag kit. I'll probably be the last boat all the time, but I'm okay with that as long as I have the equipment and the skills and the know-how of getting people in boat out of situations. Like I said, stabilizing people, kind of putting pieces back together. It's kind of an odd way to think about it, but that's how it usually is out there. Anyway, that's the 2 checklists I had out there, or with me right now. The class 2, like I said, and the class 3. Next video will be a class 4 and a class 5. They're the stuff I really want to get into because I want to push myself into more of the class 4 boater stuff. So I'm really excited to take a look at those checklists. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'd love to read them. If there's anything on this list that you think is absolutely wrong or anything that needs to be added, leave it down there. I'd love to read it. Like I said, I'm trying to be a better boatsman, a better river guide myself, so I'd love to read it. If you guys could hit that like button if you like what I'm doing here, it would help me out a lot. And subscribe too if you guys like. It'd be a great thing for me. If you guys really like what I'm doing, it'd be an awesome thing as well. So I'll catch you guys next week, and bye bye.